Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to a new series focusing on transport news in and around the UK. If you haven't already, do make sure to subscribe for future videos. Coming from Rail Business UK, Cross Country has selected Alstom to refurbish its fleet of Voyagers and Turbostars, with an expected timeframe of 2 years for the work to take place. They also announced back in March that 12 train sets, those being the Class 221 Voyagers, would be transferred from both operator Avanti West Coast and leasing company Beacon Rail. This is expected to aid in increasing network capacity by up to a quarter, with the 60 total cars providing over 12,000 extra seats by the summer. The extra trains will be progressively introduced from June, following their release from Avanti West Coast. As part of the transition, however, Cross Country says it will remove a number of intermediate station calls from its services between June and September. Stations include Wakefield, Westgate, Chesterfield, Basingstoke and Winchester. This essentially makes a service from Bournemouth a non-stop to Reading once you get past Southampton Central. As a personal aside, I've been travelling up to Basingstoke fairly frequently, so it will be interesting to see how this impacts any of my future journeys. Cross Country have been notorious up and down the country for sending out 4 or 5 car units at peak rush hour. Back in November, I was returning from York, catching a connection at Birmingham New Street, which was so crammed I was pulled back off the train and had to wait another 2 hours. The next train was scheduled an hour later, which was itself an hour late. Oh, and directly after the last clip from my West Coast mainline video a couple of months back, I had a 5.5 hour journey from Manchester to Bournemouth, with no catering on board. Needless to say, this intake of units has been desperately needed, and I, for one, will greatly appreciate it when they come into full service. Residents who were forced out of their homes to make way for the scrapped northern leg of High Speed 2 are still waiting for compensation 6 months on, with many of the properties that were on land purchased for the project remaining empty and unused. The Department for Transport said it was continuing to develop a clear programme for selling land no longer needed for High Speed 2, which I would assume to be selling it back to the previous owners, but that's just me. In Colton, the Border Collie Trust spent more than £136,000 on a new field for the dogs in their care, with bosses and trustees alike being frustrated by the whole ordeal. One of the trustees, Ben Wilkes, complained that it has been very frustrating and aggravating. I can't think of enough adjectives to describe how difficult it has been. Well, Ben, seeing as I'm not beholden to YouTube's demonetisation yet, I've got some for you. They're greedy Bernard Kessel, a farm owner in Madeley, lost 40 acres to High Speed 2, saying his farm has been ruined by the scrapped plan. The 82-year-old was told he would be paid £230,000, but claims he has not received a penny. High Speed 2 says otherwise, with a spokesperson's response being, "We recognise that people did not choose to live in the path of a high-speed railway, and understand the frustration they may now feel following the cancellation of northern sections of High Speed 2. They added, "The majority of Mr. Kettle's claims for compensation have been paid, and an interim solution for accessing his site was provided." The spokesperson also said it was working with the Border Collie Trust to settle their claim. On the opposite end of the project, mayors from the West Midlands and Greater Manchester unveiled 3 options to boost existing rail connections in the north, utilising reallocated funding to enhance the West Coast Main Line, building bypasses at the most congested parts, and get this, build a brand new line, possibly following the track of the cancelled route. I thought the whole point of High Speed 2 was to alleviate the WCML anyway, and if they're looking at building a standard line on the route, what's wrong with a high-speed one? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And on a lighter note, Railway Enthusiasts visits over 2,500 stations in exactly 6 weeks in fundraising challenge. Yes, Thameslink Control Room Manager David Jones set off from Freebridge Station on February 19th. Managing an impressive 62.5 stations on average each day, across an immense 441 hours. Finishing on March 31st at Inverness Station, David managed to raise £2,460 for Great Ormond Street Hospital and the Children's Intensive Care Unit at Oslo's University Hospital, where a friend of his was treated. He said, "My friend had fallen ill in Norway and they decided to do a 1,000-mile bike ride from Bedfordshire to Oslo, but I didn't face riding the bike, so being a train geek, I decided to do this. I feel a sense of achievement for what I've done. I feel overwhelmed by the support going into the final days. Smashing the money target is just fantastic." You're fantastic, David. The link to donate to David's fundraiser is down in the description. If you like this video, let me know in the comments. The shift into train content isn't probably what a lot of you expected, and neither did I, but I'm really enjoying it so far, and there are some great projects currently in the works. Don't worry, the car stuff isn't going anywhere just yet.